Ladies and gentlemen, may I welcome all of you to the opening ceremony of this year's symposium and summit, which is being organized jointly by Inria and UNESCO. My name is Fackson Banda, for those of you that do not know me. I am the chief of the Unit for Documentary Heritage, which manages the Memory of the World program. I would now like to take this opportunity to invite my director, Marielza Oliveira, who is responsible for digital inclusion, policies, and transformation in the sector of communication and information here at UNESCO. She's going to give her welcoming remarks to all of you. My singular honor and pleasure to call on you, Director.
Dear colleagues, dear community, software heritage community, as a former software engineer myself, it's a great pleasure and honor to welcome you today to the Software Heritage Annual Community event, our third symposium dedicated to the Universal Source Code Archive that plays such a pivotal role in preserving and sharing the invaluable cultural heritage embedded in software code. Software is the lifeblood of our digital age, permeating every aspect of our lives and driving innovation across industries. In 2016, Inria, the French National Institute for Computer Science and Applied Mathematics, launched the Software Heritage Initiative, embarking on such an ambitious journey to collect, to preserve, and to share all software source code. Today, we stand united in our commitment to building an essential infrastructure that serves not only the realms of cultural heritage, digital development, and science, but society as a whole. So really, you're part of that community. In 2017, we reached a significant milestone with the partnership agreement between UNESCO and Inria. This partnership has established a framework for collaborating, aligning our efforts to preserve the knowledge within the software source code under the umbrella of UNESCO's Memory of the World program. Since then, software heritage has grown in stature and impact. In 2021, we celebrated the 5th anniversary of software heritage with our first annual symposium, and in 2023, the second symposium further solidified our commitment to this crucial initiative. Today, we gather once again to take stock of our achievements and discuss the current status of software heritage within the dynamic landscape of digital innovation, with a focus on generative artificial intelligence as the latest breakthrough. On our half-day event, we'll delve into several dimensions crucial to the Software Heritage Archive, from viewing software source code as documentary heritage to exploring its role in historical research, scientific challenges, open science ecosystems, and its significance in fostering innovation and collaboration in industry and in administration. Our distinguished guests, speakers, and panelists, representing various facets of the global landscape, will share insights and perspectives throughout the day. We are thus honored to have with us among the esteemed speakers, Gilles Mathieu, representing the French Ministry of Research and Higher Education, Jean-Frédéric Gerbeau, Inria Deputy Chief Executive Office for Science, and Roberto di Cosmo, Director of Software Heritage. The program features engaging sessions such as the Industry and Public Administration panel, scientific challenges for analyzing and learning from preserved source code, an open science panel, and a discussion on software source code as part of Memory of the World. In talking about the Memory of the World program, let me say a few words about it. The objective of this program is to identify the world's documentary heritage, ensuring its preservation and enhancing universal access to it for the present and for future generations. This makes the Memory of the World program a natural ally of the Software Heritage nonprofit initiative which has an aim to collect, preserve, and make widely available the source code of all software that has ever been written, creating the first worldwide archive of software. This is particularly so given the digital aspects of the UNESCO 2015 recommendation concerning the preservation of and access to documentary heritage, including in digital form. This standard-setting instrument provides a strategic and programmatic framework for the Memory of the World program. Within the 5 years of intervention since the 2015 recommendation, 5 areas of intervention, sorry, I can see clearly the interlinkages between Inria's Software Heritage Initiative and the Memory of the World program. More specifically, as digital documentary heritage, software source code needs to be identified actively within its community of practice here assembled and preserved in the long term as part of a possible global software heritage archival system, assessed for further development, scholarly research, and other uses, promoted as part of the nexus of national and international cooperation among the different stakeholders that make up the software heritage community. And last but not least, supported by an enabling policy environment among UNESCO member states in order for it to really thrive. These actions recognize that more broadly, software heritage is building an essential common infrastructure on top of which a wealth of applications can be built, serving cultural heritage, science, public services, industry, digital development, and society as a whole, including generative AI that actually does coding, for example. So this is why the software heritage is also linked to UNESCO in other actions, including open science. Adopted by the international community 2 years ago, UNESCO's 2021 Open Science recommendation emphasizes the promotion of free and open source software due to its collaborative and transformative potential in the advancement of scientific knowledge. The recommendation recognizes software as an instrument, a process, and a form of content that is indispensable to scientific inquiry. The recommendation also recognizes collaboration and reproducibility as the foundational elements of open science, which promotes the establishment of procedures that facilitate the exchange of experimental code and instruments. And in turn, this facilitates verification, collaboration, and cooperation among scientists coming from the various institutions and disciplines, and thereby encouraging innovation and adaptation to address the ever-changing demands of scientific inquiry. Within this framework, this summit may wish to underscore the need for interoperability, and as it's critical for democratizing access to computing tools on a global scale, with a particularly an emphasis on the Global South. And second, among other actions, we look at public services and industry. Software source code facilitates public services and drives industry applications that are crucial for the operations of every large organization. The ability to use, to understand, and evolve the processes and devices that run our industry relies on the ability to access, understand, and involve the software that controls them. And so towards these objectives, UNESCO partnered with Inria in 2017 to support and encourage this international effort to preserve the very precious knowledge embedded in software source code and make it widely available, and centered around the ongoing development of Software Heritage Archive. Indeed, in 2018, as part of this partnership, UNESCO published the Paris Call on Software Source Code, identifying a list of challenges facing software, including raising awareness among decision makers about its importance as part of our digital documentary heritage, recognition of software creators as key contributors to the generation of such heritage, and the need for its greater access to ensure that everyone is empowered with sufficient digital literacy and skills to fulfill their participation in the many realms of today's digital society. And as we navigate this symposium, so let us collectively reflect on the crucial role software source code plays in shaping our past, our present, and our future. Together, we aim to underscore the significance of software heritage in our ever-evolving digital landscape, especially considering the rapid changes in the field of generative artificial intelligence. So I wish you all a fruitful and inspiring symposium filled with enriching discussions and shared insights. And thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart for your contributions to this vital conversation on preserving the legacy of software heritage and source code for generations to come. So thank you very much, and let's have a good symposium.
Thank you, Marielza, for that welcome address. Let's move on to the next speaker, Mathieu, who is representing the French Ministry of Research and Higher Education. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation so that we can share our common understanding of the importance of open source software in the context of open science, which is something that is a long love story, with the latest development being this second plan for open science, which was launched in July 2021. Which is pretty much aligned to the UNESCO recommendations on open science, which were published the same year, which places France as a kind of precursor and pioneer in this context, and we're very proud of that. This plan is organized on the fact that open science is organized on pillars, which are very important, and we've gone through this quite a lot of time already. We've got open publications, we've got open data, and we've got open software, and all this is sort of grouped with the question of transforming the practices and transforming the research to make this a default principle. So these three components are very key to open science and to the policy which is pursued by the French Ministry of Higher Education and Research. And especially we're glad that we're here to talk about this opening up and promoting source code, which is produced by research in the context of our ministry, which corresponds to different acts and different objectives in this plan for open science, which are listed here. So there's the recognition and support of what is published in terms of license for open source code and software. There's the need to highlight the production of the source code in the higher education and research community, and the need to define and promote a clear and understandable open source software policy. So here are a few quotes from this plan, which says that, of course, the opening of software source code is a major challenge for the reproducibility of scientific results. This goes without saying, but as always, it's better saying it. And distribution of software products under open source licenses will be preferred. So that's a clear political orientation, that there is a clear priority given to open source licenses. So there's just a few examples of how things are declined in this plan. And I would like quickly to go through a set of concrete actions, because that could be nice words, but words without action don't mean a thing. So what's been done as part of the ministry to actually implement this? So going into the three blocks, that the definition and promotion of open source software policy, building an ecosystem to connect the different pillars that I've talked about, which are the code, the data, and the publications, and of course the promotion of the software which is produced as part of the research work carried on in France, both as tools to produce research and as objects of research themselves. So the first set of actions under the definition and promotion of the software policy, here are a few actions that have been undertaken in the past years. First one being the creation of a college of experts for source code and software, which is a college part of the Committee for Open Science in France. And that builds up on developing a network of chief data and software officers across the different research performing institutions in France. So the national institutions, the universities, and different bodies. This is a very important thing, that we want this policy to be rooted in every institution, policy, and concrete actions. Then, of course, money is everywhere, and then developing the economic models of open source software is quite important. Open source software is not about everything being without a cost, so the economic model is important. And last but not least, the fact that software heritage exists is a very good thing for us in the sense that we support it and recommend it for the archiving and referencing of the source code. This is part of a triad. Again, coming back on these pillars, we've got an ecosystem for publishing outputs and publication in the open archive, which is HAL. We've got an ecosystem to publish and open data, which is Recherche Data Gouv, and we've got this recommendation to publish and open the software in Software Heritage. Now, this ecosystem that connects everything means that we need this proper coordination between these bodies. It's not just sufficient to recommend depositing things in different repositories or different systems. It's just very important to make sure that they can connect, work together, and actually provide common good to open science in general. And then the promotion of research software source code, which is produced by the research community. There are some. This is a selection of actions. This is not the full exhaustive list, but it's quite an example. We've made public a charter for research software policy. We work on recognizing software development as a clear output of research that can be actually considered in evaluation for researchers, which is quite important as well. And of course, there's a coordination of the community and the community of practice among software. As I said, coordination is a key everywhere. And of course, we need to build and connect all these ecosystems into one connected ecosystem of research output, publication, code, data. This led to a certain amount of recommendation. Here are a few examples again. The recommendation, as I said, to archive source code in Software Heritage, the standardized use of the SWID, the software hash IDs that are the equivalent of the, persistent identifier for software code. And yes, it's a hash. And of course, catalog, listing, making things available, findable, is true for data, it's true for software as well. So building a national catalog of research software is of key importance. Another concrete example about this recognition and reward of open science practices in which software is included is the annual Open Science Awards, which are awarded by the Ministry for Higher Education and Research. Different prizes which are awarded by the ministry herself every year. So we had 2 already, which is for research software and 1 for research data. And starting this year, we'll have another award, which will be for doctoral thesis. So it's key that recognition is perceived everywhere in where the ministry has impact, because it's a key to show the support that we give to those things and how important they are in the national policy. Now, a quick look at what's the status. So it dates a bit. It's the last numbers here in this graph are from 2021, but still, we have a few tools available here in France, developed as part of the tools by the Ministry of Research. One of them is this French Open Science Monitor, which gave insights about the level of openness in different research outputs. And the aspect on software is quite enlightening in the sense that if you look at this graph, it shows the proportion of publications that share software or code across the years. And what we see is a tendency to increase. We're quite proud of it, even though topping at 20% is not as high as we would like. So we're expecting this to go higher and higher. The thing is, this indicator shows that there is more and more understanding and realization that sharing the code is important, and this is a good tendency, and we'd like to pursue in that direction. All these make reason for the French Ministry for Higher Education and Research to support Software Heritage in its mission. For us, it's a critical international non-profit infrastructure that is very important because it builds and structures its largest universal code archive, and it enters into the definition of what's the common good. So it is a digital common good. This is essential for open science. Again, data, publication, software, everything has to be interrelated. And then we're into a world where artificial intelligence is getting more and more on the table, and having a tool like Software Heritage really helps making this generative AI more accountable, more transparent, and based on those common goods and open source. This is part of the national strategy on artificial intelligence, as the latest announcement for our president in June. So all this put together is a big thank you to UNESCO, to Inria, to the Software Heritage, and to all the international partners and sponsors here for the work done. It's pretty impressive, and yeah, we expect that the support will increase and that the results will go higher and higher. And I thank you.
Thank you so much for those remarks. My honor now to call upon the Inria Deputy CEO for Science, Mr. Jean-Frédéric Gerbeau.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to be with you for this Software Heritage Symposium. I'm here on behalf of Inria, the French Research Institute for Digital Science and Technology, which is under the dual authority of the Ministry of Higher Education and Research and the Ministry of the Economy. Inria has always a very strong software culture. It is a research institute where software production is fully integrated into research and, of course, innovation. It is also an institute that has always supported pioneering projects at several times in its history. In the 90s, for example, it led the European branch of the W3C consortium for the open standards of the web technologies. About software heritage, in front of this audience of experts, it's probably not worth spending too much time on it, but I'd like still to remind you that software heritage is a formidable scientific and technological challenge. Because first, harvesting all the open source code on the planet is a difficult problem because there is no standard protocol on the various platforms such as GitHub, GitLab, GeForce, and so on. And it's arguably more difficult operation than referencing the web itself. And second, the size of the archive is extraordinary, with its graph of 35 billion nodes, 500 billion edges. Efficiently querying such a tree is a research topic in itself. So, a pioneering project, a software project, a scientific and technological challenge. It is therefore in complete consistency with its DNA that Inria has supported the Software Heritage Project from its inception in 2015 under the impulse of Roberto Di Cosmo and Stefano Zacchiroli. In 2017, an agreement was signed between UNESCO and Inria to establish a collaborative framework centered on software heritage, dedicated to the preservation of source code. We signed the renewal of this agreement in 2021, and it is great pride for Inria to see the maturity of this visionary project today. Beyond the dimension of preserving the intellectual heritage of the humanity recognized by UNESCO, and which is, of course, extremely important, I would like to draw attention to two other dimensions of the project, equally important for Inria. First, it is a platform at the service of open science, as already been said, and also a software tool at the service of software engineering. So a lot has been said about open science. Open archives for publications have been recognized for over 20 years as an essential tool in what we know today, what we know is known about as open science. Sharing research data is also a major pillar, and I think everyone now recognizes that an article describing a methods and a data set are often insufficient for reproducibility if they are not supplemented by the software that was used to obtain the results. Open science therefore relies, as you said, on three pillars: publication, data, software. These three pillars are fully recognized in the French National Plan for Open Science and at the European level in the EOSC, the European Open Science Cloud Project, for which Jean-François Bramatic, an emeritus researcher at Inria, played a key role at the very beginning that I would like to acknowledge here. In recent years, important steps have been taken in connecting the HAL Open Archive and software heritage. We believe that this trend should be continued. The second dimension I'd like to emphasize is software heritage as a software tool for software engineering. I think this aspect has always been present in the minds of the software heritage pioneers, but to be honest, in 2021, here at UNESCO, when we were still presenting it as a work in progress. But today we can say that this dimension has really taken off with two ambitious projects. On the one hand, the use of software heritage for cybersecurity in a project hosted here in Paris, La Défense, at the Cyber Campus. And on the other hand, the use of software heritage as a wonderful basis for training large language models for generative AI. I think that we'll have an illustration of this afternoon. Today, we can say that software heritage, which has been nourished by several decades of work by the open source community, is contributing to tools that will now benefit to the large software engineers community. As you can see, software heritage is multifaceted. A platform for preserving the world's heritage, a platform for open science, a software tool at the service of software engineering. One might even say that it is itself an object of study. It offers so many opportunities and so many uses that it will attract ever larger and more diverse communities, both academic and industrial. It is both a conviction and also a wish. Naturally, software heritage will continue to count Inria among its loyal supporters. We are delighted that we now have 22 partners, and we can only hope that many more will come on board. Thank you very much for your attention.
Last but not the least, for this opening ceremony, I would like to invite Roberto Di Cosmo to take the floor. He is the director of the Software Heritage Initiative.
Thanks, Fackson, for the introduction. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. So I will take a few minutes to remind you a little bit more about what software heritage is concretely. Of course, it has been said the general context is software is all over the place. Okay, it's an engine of industry, it's a pillar of research, is a fuel of innovation, is a fabric that binds together all aspects of our digital lives. But software doesn't come out of the blue. Software is written by humans for humans in the form of source code. When I was a student many, many years ago, you see time is passing, and I turned 60 just a couple of months ago. A beautiful book I was using had an introduction of this nice phrase. I mean, programs should be written for humans to read and only accessorily for machines to execute. Back then in the 80s, there was not much source code to check. But today we have access to an incredible amount of source code, some dating from early days. Here, you have a small excerpt of the source code that was embarked on the landing module of Apollo 11 that allowed us to put a man on the moon, thanks to a woman, Margaret Hamilton, that led the development of this software. By the way, this was just 60,000 lines to land on the moon. If you know how many tens of millions of lines are on your phone today, we made progress or not, let me say. And then there are other more modern pieces of source code which can be extremely important to show. And this example is a part of the key algorithm used in France to decide whether your student should go to a university or another, depending on what their choice is and the choice of university. And it is super important to make this readable and understandable to people who want to know why the kids got this or that other allocation. So Len Schustek, who was a former board director of the Computer History Museum, a beautiful institution in Silicon Valley, where the building itself, the ancient Silicon Graphics building, is a museum by itself, wrote in a beautiful article in 2006, if you want to preserve software, we need to preserve its source code, because it is through reading the source code that we can actually see in the mind of the designer. And we are here today at UNESCO is because software and source code is not something that concerns just one country or just one region in the world. Thanks to fantastic work that has been done by Stefano back there, by doing an analysis on the content or the history of software in software heritage. In these graphs, you can see red is Europe, blue is North America, and the other color are other part of the world. Back in the ages, you had a big predominance of Europe and the United States, but if you look more towards our part of the time frame, you will see that now more than a third comes from actually all over the place, including the global south. This is the reason why we care about software and source code globally. And this is also the reason why we had this declaration here at UNESCO in 2018 on the importance of source code. They called, among other things, to recognize software source code as a fundamental enabler for human endeavor. And it has been mentioned, so software and source code is precious technical and scientific knowledge. And why opening and sharing it is important, because as we have seen during the COVID-19 disaster, the real antidote to epidemics is actually collaboration and sharing. This is coming from Yuval Noah Harari. Our colleague from the Ministry of Research already showed a diagram from this French Open Science Monitor showing the increase of amount of software which is shared. This is from the same source, but now this is declined by discipline. You know, so and you see in these bars that across all disciplines, from social sciences to biology to medicine to history to, of course, computing and engineering, etc., you have source code mentioned in publication all over the place. So it's not just a matter of computer science, it is across the board. And of course, if you really want to teach, I mean, this is one of the founding fathers of computer science, Donald Knuth, in a beautiful article in January 2021, he was explaining that if you want to teach, since we are human beings, you need to tell the stories behind the technology. And that's the reason why we started collaboration with UNESCO also to tell the stories of software. If you want to preserve all this, we need a dedicated infrastructure to preserve and share all this knowledge. But it is not just this, it is much more. Actually, reuse, security, transparency, these are all keywords that are popping up all around the place because of regulations. I mean, you have UN regulation on cybersecurity, for example, for automotive. You have regulations here in France about the reuse of software. You have more recent regulation in the US about cybersecurity and securing the software supply chain. And again, if you want to do this, we need a trusted, common, open, transparent knowledge page that allows us to actually check security and transparency and traceability of the software component we use. And of course, software source code is fragile. Actually millions of projects has disappeared because platform has been closing down or because projects have been moved around. And this means that the web of knowledge is in danger because you have pointers or links to things that are no longer there. If we want to cater to this need, we need a global long-term effort to build an archive which is actually long-lasting, resilient, and sustainable. This is the mission that Software Heritage decided to take over at the service of humankind as a whole. So Software Heritage was unveiled in 2016 after one intense year of initial work to show that we were able to do this. The clear mission is collect, preserve, and share the source code of every piece of software which is publicly available across the planet. And this is actually done to provide to humankind a reference catalog of the source code that is available, no matter where it comes from, no matter the platform where it is developed, to provide an archive that actually makes sure the software doesn't disappear, and actually to build the first layer of a much needed research infrastructure that should be available across the world to help us look at, study, and analyze the galaxy of software development in the same way that our friends in astrophysics managed to bring humankind together to build beautiful tools like James Webb Space Telescope to explore the origin of the universe. The idea is to actually build a universal software archive as a one infrastructure, but shared and mutualized across everybody, across all the fields. It is to date the largest open archive of source code ever built. Over 270 million projects have been archived with over 18 billion lines, individual files. That is collected from hundreds of platforms around the world. Let me go forward. So this is an operational evolving infrastructure we collect from all over the place and in archiving a gigantic graph that has been mentioned by Jean-Frédéric before. Not only we do it proactively, but we can also enable you to trigger archival of the manually through SafeCon Now or through partnership with the deposit. We have a specific reference identifier, a sort of hash identifier, which is undergoing ISO normalization in this very moment, that provides precise identification of every single component in the archive. And this means the global development history of humankind's source code is in a single uniform data structure that is there to be maintained and there to be studied. So this is actually a revolutionary infrastructure because you have all the history in a single graph. It is not one project by itself. And this is not any graph, but it's actually a cryptographic graph, a Merkle graph. So it provides kind of a blockchain for software development. It is a pillar of open science. It allows you to find, archive, reference, describe, and cite software. And it's also a fantastic playground for doing large-scale studies and machine learning and AI. And you will hear more about this today. So this, of course, is not something I will do. So usually I would love to drive you through a demo of what is going on. But what we will do is that we will make these slides available for you. Everything which is in blue actually is a clickable link. You can click on the link and go and see what is going on there. You can browse the archive, get the source code of the Apollo 11 through a particular identifier, find many other things around it. But let me focus on the more institutional side. A project like this one, an initiative like this one, cannot be done by any institution alone. So we need to bring together people that share the vision, and we are so grateful to UNESCO to have accepted us under their roof to work together on this to the service of humankind. And we are so grateful to Inria, which is a national research institution in France, which is very well known for everything they did for software before, to have accepted to start with us this initiative that has seen a growing number of partners. Many of you are here in the room today. There are 22 partners in this very moment, coming from industry, coming from public administration, coming from academia, coming from all over the world, sharing this thing, because of course, there is a cost in building an archive. Okay, it's not for free. And just a little focus on the progress in 2023. A big event has been the opening of the first international mirror of software heritage at Enea in Italy. This was in mid-December in Rome. We were there, and I would like you, if you want, to say just a big thank you to Enea. We have representatives, Giovanni. Where is Giovanni? Here, okay. Representatives here for taking over this effort and developing the first mirror, which is important to make sure we do not lose this. So thanks a lot, Giovanni, for this. We have seen Software Heritage selected by the Sustainability Coalition for Open Science Services, which is a big recognition. We hope this will help us grow better. We published in October, last October, our clear principle for acceptable use of a software heritage archive for generated derived, and many, many other things more. You can get the QR code with the annual report, which is out right here. Of course, this could not happen without a dedicated community. A key part of this dedicated community, is a core team. This is a dedicated group of people. Many of them have helped you in this room before. I have been working for weeks to set up this event. I've been working years for building this infrastructure. And I would like, if you want, people in the team, can you just stand up so people can see you? Okay. And we had a growing number of ambassadors that join us to bring forward the words and to grow this community. Actually, I have to say, this is a particularly moving moment for us because it is in this room in 2017, on April 3rd, that the first agreement with UNESCO was signed, exactly in this very same room. I think in more or less the same hour, okay? So it's a fantastic moment to be back here to share with you the progress. But so now my presentation is finished. I need to tell you what happens in the symposium, because the second part of this is actually an interaction in different roundtables. As always, we try to touch upon all the aspects in the software and software source code in society. The first roundtable panel will be with industry and government representative that will focus on how software is essential in the digital transformation, how it can be used in industry. A second part is a technical part. So we decided to drive you through a little bit of technicalities, which is in particular analyzing and learning from the software heritage archive. You see the icon here gives the idea that you need to compress things. Actually, the archive is pretty big. If you want to analyze a graph, you need to put the graph in a much smaller form to make it amenable to fast analysis. And we have here Sebastiano Vigna that worked with Stefano Zacchiroli for a long time to actually adapt a fantastic framework to make this possible. You will learn about this. And then, of course, some people say that large language model are just a compressed form of knowledge, right? So we will have here Harm de Vries and Leandro von Vera that will show you how you can actually compress part of the software heritage in a large language model. We will have an open science panel after the coffee break on policy, infrastructure, and funding. And we will, of course, close with cultural heritage and the commons panel that will go through all these aspects of the importance of software as part of our culture. So thanks a lot for your attention, your time. I think we can close here and we move on to the next panel. Thank you very much.